Louis and B.B. Barron created a soundtrack that was like no other soundtrack that had ever existed before. And they invented electronic music that you know today.
Long before modern sci-fi films filled theaters with massive CGI battles and futuristic worlds, one movie completely changed what science fiction could become. Forbidden Planet was more than just a space adventure. It introduced groundbreaking visual effects, inspired future classics like Star Wars and Star Trek, and secretly pushed Hollywood into a new era of filmmaking. But behind the robots, alien worlds, and unforgettable stories are shocking secrets most fans still do not know. From hidden production disasters to surprising casting choices. Join us in this video as we reveal 20 shocking facts you probably never knew about Forbidden Planet. Number 20. The sound that came from another world. Picture yourself sitting inside a dark movie theater in 1956. The lights fade. The MGM lion appears. You expect dramatic orchestra music to explode through the speakers. Instead, you hear something completely strange. Electronic pulses, creepy whistles, buzzing sounds that feel almost alive. Audiences had never heard anything like it before. That's because Louis Barron and B.B. Barron created the first fully electronic soundtrack ever used in a major Hollywood film. And they did it without synthesizers because synthesizers didn't even exist yet. The couple built homemade electronic circuits that purposely burned themselves out while recording. Then they cut, stretched, and manipulated magnetic tape by hand to create the strange sounds heard throughout Forbidden Planet. MGM executives were so confused by the result that the credits didn't even call it music. Instead, it was labeled electronic tonalities. The Musicians' Union also refused to recognize it as an official score since no real orchestra was used. But the Barons understood something nobody else did. A movie set in the year 2257 shouldn't sound normal. Every hum and pulse needed to remind audiences they were trillions of miles away from Earth. And in the end, those eerie sounds changed science fiction forever. So, what other shocking facts were not known about the Forbidden Planet? Keep watching to find out. Number 19. The movie almost became a completely different story. It's hard to believe now, but Forbidden Planet almost turned into a very different movie. The original script wasn't even called Forbidden Planet. It was titled Fatal Planet, written by Irving Block and Alan Adler, and compared to the final film, it was much darker. The early version focused heavily on horror and violence. Characters died in brutal ways. The monster was fully visible from the beginning instead of hidden in shadows. The tone was grim, strange, and far more aggressive than what audiences eventually saw in theaters. MGM executives hated it. The studio thought the story was too depressing, too weird, and impossible to market to mainstream audiences. So the writers were ordered to rework the entire film, again and again. More than 30 different drafts were written over several years. With each rewrite, the movie slowly changed shape. The violence was reduced. The mystery increased. The invisible monster became more psychological instead of physical. Romance and wonder were pushed to the center of the story. Then came the biggest change of all. Somewhere during the rewriting process, someone suggested building the film around the Tempest. Suddenly, the story had a deeper structure. By the time the final version was approved, it barely resembled the original Fatal Planet script. What began as a simple monster movie slowly evolved into one of the most influential science fiction films ever made. But what major risk did MGM take that nearly destroyed their budget? Let's find out. Number 18. The robot that almost broke the budget. In 1956, MGM made a decision that sounded completely insane. They spent $125,000 building a single movie prop for Forbidden Planet. That prop was Robbie the Robot. To understand how wild that was, the film's entire budget was around $2 million, so nearly 7% of all the money went into one 7-foot robot. The studio could have used that cash to hire another major actor, build more sets, or shoot extra scenes. Instead, they poured it into metal, gears, lights, and moving parts. MGM executives reportedly panicked when they saw how much Robbie was costing. At the time, nobody knew if audiences would even care about a talking robot. But the gamble paid off in a huge way. Robbie didn't just become memorable. He became one of the most recognizable robots in movie history. His futuristic design looked so believable that audiences instantly fell in love with him. Over the years, Robbie appeared in other films and TV shows, becoming a sci-fi legend far beyond the original movie. Then came the real shock. In 2017, one of the original Robbie props sold at auction for $5.3 million. Not adjusted for inflation, real money. That giant metal robot eventually became more valuable than most Hollywood careers. Sometimes, the craziest risks are the ones that end up changing film history forever. Number 17. The unknown actor who saved the movie. Believe it or not, Leslie Nielsen was never MGM's first choice for Forbidden Planet. The studio wanted a major star to play Commander Adams. They approached bigger Hollywood names, including Charlton Heston and Robert Taylor. But neither actor signed on. One reportedly thought the script was too strange, while the other simply didn't want to spend the movie wearing a futuristic uniform. That left MGM nervous. Science fiction was already considered risky in the 1950s, and now they didn't even have a huge star to help sell the film. The studio worried the project could collapse before filming even began. Then, someone suggested Leslie Nielsen. At the time, Nielsen was mostly unknown. He had done television work and a few small movie roles, but nothing close to blockbuster status. Still, there was something different about him. Unlike some of the bigger actors, Nielsen actually believed in the story. He reportedly studied the script carefully before auditioning, learning the character inside and out. Instead of treating the movie like a silly sci-fi adventure, he played Commander Adams as calm, intelligent, and believable. That grounded performance became incredibly important once the film introduced robots, alien worlds, and invisible monsters. Director Fred M. Wilcox immediately saw the difference during Nielsen's screen test and knew he had found the right actor. Years later, audiences mostly remembered Nielsen for comedy classics like Airplane and The Naked Gun, making it almost shocking to watch him play a serious space commander. But that straight-faced sincerity is exactly what made Forbidden Planet work. Keep watching to find out more shocking facts you didn't know about Forbidden Planet. Number 16. The movie that changed science fiction forever. What made Forbidden Planet so different wasn't just the robots or special effects. It was the idea at the center of the story. For the first time in a major Hollywood sci-fi film, humans weren't waiting for aliens to invade Earth. We were the explorers. The movie introduced audiences to the C-57D, a faster-than-light starship traveling across deep space to a distant alien planet, orbiting the star Altair 4, nearly 23 trillion miles from Earth. That may sound normal today, but in 1956, it was revolutionary. Before this film, most science fiction stories stayed close to home. Aliens attacked Earth. Rockets traveled to the Moon or Mars. The genre was often treated like cheap entertainment, filled with giant monsters and simple stories. But MGM aimed much higher with Forbidden Planet. Instead of fear, the film focused on discovery. Humans had advanced enough to cross the galaxy, study alien civilizations, and survive in deep space. The crew wasn't helpless. They were skilled explorers pushing into the unknown. That one creative choice changed everything. Suddenly, science fiction felt smarter, bigger, and more serious. The film respected its audience and imagined a future where humanity wasn't hiding from the universe, but boldly stepping into it. And that's one reason Forbidden Planet became one of the most important sci-fi movies ever made. Number 15. The actress GM thought was too dangerous. Anne Francis almost lost her role in Forbidden Planet because MGM executives thought she didn't fit the image they wanted. The studio originally searched for someone softer and more traditional, the classic girl-next-door type that audiences expected in the 1950s. But Francis felt different. She was confident, outspoken, and carried herself in a way that seemed far more modern than most actresses of the era. To some executives, that made her risky. Director Fred M. Wilcox disagreed completely. He believed Altera shouldn't behave like an ordinary woman from Earth. After all, the character had grown up alone on a distant alien planet with almost no human contact outside her father. She wouldn't understand social rules, embarrassment, or the boundaries most people accepted without thinking. Francis understood that instantly. During her audition, she played Altera with innocence and curiosity, but also with a strange wildness that made the character feel believable. She wasn't acting seductive. She was acting free, like someone completely untouched by normal society. Wilcox reportedly knew almost immediately that she was perfect for the role. But the studio still had concerns, especially about the costumes. Early wardrobe designs featured flowing, futuristic gowns made from semi-transparent materials meant to make Altera look otherworldly. MGM censors quickly objected, calling the outfits too revealing for mainstream audiences. The costumes were redesigned with higher necklines and less transparency. Changes Francis reportedly disliked because she felt they weakened the character's uniqueness. Even so, her performance still stood out. The way she moved, spoke, and reacted made Altera feel unlike anyone else in the film. Audiences noticed immediately, and Anne Francis became one of the movie's biggest breakout stars, not because of the costumes, but because of the fearless energy she brought to the role. But what classic story secretly inspired this strange science fiction film? Stay tuned to find out. Number 14. The secret Shakespeare story hidden in space. Here's the part most people never realize about Forbidden Planet. Beneath the flying saucers, laser weapons, and alien mysteries, the movie is basically The Tempest retold in outer space. At first, it sounds impossible, but once you see the connections, you can't unsee them. In Shakespeare's story, a brilliant man named Prospero lives in exile on a remote island with his daughter Miranda. In Forbidden Planet, that role becomes Dr. Morbius, a genius scientist isolated on a distant alien planet with his daughter Altera. Miranda becomes Altera. Ariel, the magical servant spirit from the play, transforms into Robbie the Robot. Even the story follows the same path. Outsiders arrive unexpectedly. The daughter falls in love with one of them. Strange forces threaten the visitors. And at the center of it all is a powerful man whose emotions slowly spiral out of control. The deeper you look, the more similarities appear. The mysterious powers in Shakespeare's play become advanced alien technology. Magic turns into science. But the themes stay the same: loneliness, jealousy, power, and the dangerous side of human nature. Screenwriter Cyril Hume never openly called it a direct adaptation, but film scholars have connected nearly every major character and plot point back to Shakespeare's final play. And honestly, that's what makes Forbidden Planet feel so special. Number 13. The actor who thought sci-fi was beneath him. At first, Walter Pidgeon wanted nothing to do with the Forbidden Planet. By the mid-1950s, Pidgeon was already a respected Hollywood veteran known for serious dramatic roles and stage performances. Science fiction, on the other hand, still carried a reputation for being cheap and silly. When MGM first offered him the role of Dr. Edward Morbius, he reportedly turned it down more than once. The studio kept pushing. Eventually, MGM offered him better pay, top billing, and some creative control over the character. That finally got his attention. But Pidgeon had one major condition before signing on. He refused to wear ridiculous, futuristic costumes. He had already seen some early concept sketches featuring oversized alien robes and dramatic sci-fi headpieces, and he didn't want to look like a comic book character. Instead, the costume department redesigned Morbius with simple, elegant tunics that made him look more like a brilliant professor than a space wizard. Once filming began, something changed. Pidgeon realized Morbius wasn't just another sci-fi character. He saw shades of classic tragic figures like Prospero, King Lear, and Faust. Brilliant men destroyed by their own obsession and pride. Suddenly, the role felt serious, emotional, and surprisingly deep. Instead of treating the movie casually, Pidgeon fully committed to the performance. He leaned into Morbius's intelligence, arrogance, loneliness, and slow descent into horror. As the story unfolds, you can almost feel the character losing control while convincing himself he still has everything under control. That performance became the emotional heart of the entire film. By the end of production, he reportedly admitted he had completely misjudged the project. What he thought would be another strange sci-fi experiment turned into one of the strongest performances of his career. What could be the next shocking fact on the list? Keep watching to find out. Number 12. The scariest monster you could barely see. The creature in Forbidden Planet may be one of the most terrifying monsters ever put on screen in the 1950s. What makes it so disturbing isn't just its power. It's the fact that you never fully see it. The monster from the film tears through thick steel doors like paper. It destroys armed men in seconds and survives powerful blaster fire without slowing down. But instead of showing the creature clearly, the filmmakers made it feel almost invisible, like something your mind can't fully understand. Animator Joshua Meador, who was brought over from Disney, created the effect using a surprisingly simple technique. He hand-drew the monster frame by frame on translucent sheets called vellum. The drawings were then filmed in negative, tinted red, and layered over live-action footage. The result was unlike anything audiences had seen before. The monster appeared as a glowing outline that flickered in and out of view. You could see enough to know it was there, but never enough to feel safe looking at it. And honestly, that's what made it horrifying. Your imagination fills in the missing pieces. The less clearly you see the creature, the more frightening it becomes. Every roar and every attack feels like a nightmare taking shape right in front of you. The film even explains this directly through Dr. Edward Morbius, who describes it as a monster created from the subconscious mind itself. That's the genius of the film. The creature isn't terrifying because it's visible. It's terrifying because it feels like something hiding deep inside all of us. Number 11. The 30-second shot that took half a year to finish. The opening shot in Forbidden Planet may only last a few seconds, but creating it took nearly 6 months of exhausting work. When audiences first see the C-57D slowly approaching Altair 4, it feels massive, cold, and strangely believable. Today, studios would build that sequence with CGI in a matter of days. But in 1956, none of that technology existed. Every piece of the shot had to be created by hand. The background stars were individually placed one by one. The planet itself was painted onto giant sheets of glass, using matte art techniques. The C-57D was a carefully built miniature model only a few feet long, suspended by nearly invisible wires, and rotated manually between camera exposures. The effects crew worked frame by frame inside a windowless studio, constantly adjusting lights, reflections, and camera timing. If even one layer looked wrong, the entire shot had to be started again from scratch. Director Fred M. Wilcox reportedly rejected version after version until the sequence finally looked convincing enough. In total, the team created around 14 different attempts before the final shot was approved, and all of that effort was for less than 30 seconds of screen time. When the film premiered, many viewers were stunned by how believable the visuals looked, and it all came from months of patience, precision, and a team unwilling to settle for anything less than extraordinary. How did The Forbidden Planet inspire the creation of another great sci-fi movie? Let's find out. Number 10. The movie that helped create Star Trek. When Gene Roddenberry watched Forbidden Planet, he reportedly saw something bigger than just another sci-fi adventure. He saw the future. Think about the similarities for a second. A crew of explorers travels through deep space on a powerful starship. Their mission is to reach unknown worlds and represent humanity at its best, while facing dangers no one fully understands. Sound familiar? That basic idea would later become Star Trek. The connections are everywhere once you notice them. The C-57D feels like an early version of the USS Enterprise. Dr. Edward Morbius, with his intelligence and dangerous obsession, resembles the troubled scientists seen throughout Star Trek. Even Robbie the Robot helped inspire later characters like Data with his loyalty, intelligence, and almost human personality. Some fans even believe the Enterprise's famous NCTIC-1701 registration was partly inspired by the C-57D's design and naming style. But the influence goes much deeper than references and Easter eggs. Roddenberry understood what made Forbidden Planet special. The movie used science fiction to explore real human fears and ideas. The monster from the id wasn't just a creature attacking people. It represented the danger of giving enormous power to humans who aren't emotionally ready to control it. That became the foundation for many of Star Trek's greatest stories. Big sci-fi concepts mixed with psychology, morality, and human weakness. Forbidden Planet proved that science fiction could be intelligent, thoughtful, and still entertain massive audiences. Without it, Star Trek might never have existed at all. Number 9. The on-set accident that nearly destroyed Robbie. Playing Robbie the Robot wasn't as safe as it looked on screen. Inside the massive robot costume was actor Frankie Darro, who had to operate Robbie while barely being able to see where he was going. The suit was heavy, cramped, and difficult to move in, especially during complicated scenes on set. Then came the accident that nearly shut production down. During one scene in Forbidden Planet, Robbie had to move through a narrow corridor while carrying equipment. Darro misjudged the space by only a few inches. Robbie's large dome slammed directly into a metal beam overhead. The impact shattered the robot's plexiglass headpiece and knocked Darro backward inside the suit. Crew members rushed in immediately, worried he had suffered serious injuries. Somehow, he escaped with only bruises and a bad scare. Robbie, however, wasn't so lucky. The damaged dome had to be completely rebuilt, forcing production to stop for several days while the prop department worked non-stop creating replacement parts. The team had to remold the shattered pieces, repolish surfaces, reconnect wiring, and carefully rebuild the robot from spare components. Keep watching to find out more shocking facts you didn't know. Number 8. The film that made Hollywood take sci-fi seriously. Before Forbidden Planet, most science fiction movies were treated like cheap entertainment. Studios saw the genre as risky and childish, something made quickly with small budgets, weak effects, and simple stories. These films were often pushed into double features alongside westerns or horror movies. Hollywood didn't believe serious money should be spent on spaceships and aliens. Then MGM changed everything. The studio poured nearly $2 million into Forbidden Planet, an enormous budget for a sci-fi film in 1956. And they didn't treat it like a low-level project. They gave it top talent and full studio support. Fred M. Wilcox directed the film, while Academy Award-winning cinematographer George J. Folsey handled the visuals. The cast included respected stars like Walter Pidgeon and Leslie Nielsen, long before Nielsen became famous for comedy. The result looked bigger and smarter than anything audiences expected from science fiction. The sets were massive. The effects felt believable, and the story treated viewers like adults instead of children. When the film became both a critical and commercial success, Hollywood finally paid attention. Forbidden Planet proved science fiction could attract mainstream audiences and be taken seriously as prestige entertainment. That success helped open the door for future classics like Planet of the Apes and 2001: A Space Odyssey. The film didn't just inspire future directors, it changed how the entire industry viewed science fiction forever. Number 7. The scene that feels very different today. One moment in Forbidden Planet has become increasingly controversial as audiences look back on it through modern eyes. The scene happens when Commander Adams suddenly grabs Altera and kisses her forcefully, believing it will awaken emotions she doesn't fully understand because of her isolated upbringing on Altair 4. In the 1950s, many viewers and critics saw the moment as passionate and romantic. Today, a lot of people see something much different. To modern audiences, the scene can feel aggressive, uncomfortable, and deeply possessive. What makes the moment even more interesting is that Anne Francis reportedly had concerns about it during filming. She felt the scene was pushed too far and argued that Altera's reaction didn't feel natural for the character. Francis suggested softer alternatives and believed the interaction should feel more mutual and emotionally believable. Director Fred M. Wilcox disagreed. Wilcox believed the scene was necessary to shock Altera into emotional awareness and insisted it remain intense. In the end, the production filmed the scene exactly as he wanted. Number 6. The actor who lost the lead but won the movie. Before Leslie Nielsen landed the role of Commander Adams in Forbidden Planet, MGM tested several other actors for the part. One of the strongest contenders was Earl Holliman. Holliman had everything the studio normally wanted in a leading man. He was handsome, charismatic, confident, and already building momentum in Hollywood. On paper, he looked perfect for the heroic commander role. But during screen tests, director Fred M. Wilcox felt something wasn't clicking. Holliman played the character too casually. He joked around between takes and brought a more relaxed energy to the role, while Wilcox wanted Commander Adams to feel disciplined, serious, and military. After several auditions, the director made a difficult decision. Holliman wasn't getting the lead role. Still, Wilcox saw potential in him and offered him another part instead: the ship's cook, Cookie. At first, the change hit hard. Holliman had gone from possible leading man to comic relief almost overnight. But he accepted the role anyway, and in the end, it became one of the smartest casting choices in the entire movie. Cookie brought warmth and humor into a story filled with alien technology, psychological horror, and deep philosophical ideas. But behind the actors, what massive challenge nearly broke the entire production? Keep watching to find out. Number 5. The technical nightmare behind the camera. Making Forbidden Planet was far more difficult than most audiences realized. Cinematographer George J. Folsey later revealed that the production spent over 2 years planning the film's technical side before cameras even rolled. The movie used 4 of MGM's largest sound stages filled with massive surreal sets, painted cycloramas, and strange color gradients designed specifically for CinemaScope and Eastman color. Every shot became a complicated visual challenge, requiring perfect timing between lighting crews, camera operators, and effects artists. Folsey praised the crew's coordination, saying the film could not work without teamwork. Number 4. The giant sci-fi set that actually worked. Most people expect a 1950s science fiction movie to have simple effects and cheap-looking sets, but Forbidden Planet aimed much higher. The massive electronics lab seen in the film wasn't just decoration. It was practically an engineering project. The set reportedly used more than 50,000 feet of wiring, 2,500 feet of neon tubing, and over 1,200 square yards of plexiglass to create its futuristic appearance. MGM even hired a team of 15 electricians to operate the machinery during filming. One giant control panel alone contained 110 separate switches, all triggered manually to create the flashing lights and pulsing energy effects seen on screen. For audiences in 1956, it looked astonishingly real and helped prove science fiction could feel big, serious, and believable. Number 3. The household appliance that inspired Robbie the Robot. Robbie the Robot may still look futuristic today, but the inspiration behind his design came from a surprisingly ordinary place: household appliances. Designer Robert Kinoshita had previously worked on washing machines before joining Forbidden Planet. When creating Robbie, he borrowed ideas from industrial appliance design, especially the rounded shapes and sturdy metal forms found in washer tubs. That influence gave Robbie a grounded, believable appearance instead of making him look like a simple toy robot. The result was something unique. Robbie felt practical, functional, and strangely real, which helped audiences connect with him instantly and turned him into a timeless sci-fi icon. Keep watching to find out more. Number 2. The sci-fi movie Spain Banned Over a Miniskirt. Of all the controversies surrounding Forbidden Planet, one of the strangest had nothing to do with monsters, violence, or space travel. It came down to clothing. When the film reached Spain during the rule of Francisco Franco, government censors objected to Anne Francis and the futuristic outfits worn by her character, Altera. The dresses, especially the shorter skirts, were considered far too revealing for the country's strict moral standards at the time. Because of that, the movie was banned completely. Spanish audiences wouldn't officially see Forbidden Planet for another 11 years. By the time the film finally arrived in 1967, the situation had completely changed. Miniskirts had become a major international fashion trend, and Europe was already moving through a huge cultural shift that made the once scandalous costumes seem surprisingly harmless. It's one of the rare moments in film history where a science fiction classic faced censorship not because of aliens, violence, or frightening ideas, but because of futuristic fashion choices. Number 1. The costume Anne Francis secretly stole. When filming ended on Forbidden Planet, MGM expected every costume to be returned and locked away in storage. That was standard studio policy. But Anne Francis had grown attached to one particular outfit. The flowing dress Altera wore during the garden scenes, the costume made her feel elegant, alien, and completely connected to the character. So on the final day of production, Francis asked if she could keep it. The wardrobe department refused immediately. Studio property was studio property. Francis smiled, accepted the answer, and reportedly took the dress home anyway. According to the story, she quietly packed the costume into her bag and walked right past security without anyone stopping her. For years afterward, she wore the dress to conventions, costume parties, and publicity events, proudly telling people she stole it because Altera would have. Decades later, when MGM began auctioning classic props and costumes from its archives, Francis finally returned the outfit. Not because she regretted taking it, but because she wanted the costume preserved properly as part of film history. What do you think about these shocking facts? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, Forbidden Planet was never just another old sci-fi movie. It was a risk that changed Hollywood forever. From groundbreaking visual effects and electronic sound to hidden Shakespeare themes and unforgettable characters, the film pushed science fiction into places audiences had never seen before. Nearly 70 years later, its influence can still be felt across movies, television, and pop culture. If you enjoyed uncovering these shocking facts, Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more hidden stories behind the greatest films ever made.